bunch of nerds sit and ramble about video games.
Yo, it's the VidGames podcast. What's up? Mark here, and...
Hey guys, it's Miharu.
Yeah. Alright, we're here with Spyro. I remember we tried doing this before, and that's what ended up becoming Shantae. But now, we've got a very, concise little list of it's a little hit list of topics that we can, potentially discuss, and we'll just see where the combos take us. So,
yeah.
Are you ready for that?
I mean, can I just say, I think it's a really good thing that we ended up doing Shantae last time, because I had recently finished Risky's Revenge when we did that, and so I just had a lot to talk about.
Nice. Yeah, I still need to get back to that. I have not beaten Risky's Revenge at all. The only bit I've played of it is what I played when I first got into it, and then I just put it down, and then Pirates Curse came out, so...
Yeah. Alright, Spyro.
Yeah, no, Spyro's the complete opposite. We both grew up with it, and let's talk about our history real quick, just so that way we have a nice little rundown of all the games we've played. I think you should go first.
Okay. So, I actually have a video on my history with Spyro, if anyone wants to see that.
That I edited.
But, yes. But, basically, I was, 6-7 years old. I got a PlayStation, and I got 2 games with it. That was Xena Warrior Princess and Spyro the Dragon. Clearly, I played Spyro more. There was just something about that game that really, really resonated with me. It was fun. I liked the worlds. I liked the music, the sound effects. Just kind of everything was different. I immediately knew that it was different than all the other games that I had played before, because before that, everything I owned was like a bunch of obscure and licensed games on the Super Nintendo. So I had played nothing like this before. Like, it was so new to me. Like cutscenes. Oh, the characters are like talking to me, and like, holy crap! Everything was just so different and weird, and I really liked it. And so, then I got Spyro 2, which I believe is the first game that I've ever 100%ed on my own.
Nice.
I remember my dad got the guidebook, but I finished it right before it arrived. And then, for Christmas, the next year after that, I got Spyro 3, and I played it so much. It's my favorite game of all time, despite it being very, very bullshit in most areas. Like, more than half the game is like stuff that I don't ever want to do, but I do it anyway. In fact, in the Reignited version, I end up 117%ing that version more than the original, just because I feel that the Reignited one is so broken that I can use it to my advantage. So I end up just like going through it, and I'm just like, whatever. And I think it's just the modern controls and everything just feels like natural to me when things are kind of a bit slow in the original nowadays. But anyway, no, the original is my favorite. I feel like the Reignited one just kind of dropped the ball on a lot of things. But I don't think 117%ing that game is worth it at all. Like, at all, don't do it. Don't do it in the original, don't do it in Reignited, like, just don't do it.
It's pretty tedious to go through.
So, and then after that, there was, the other classic games, like Enter the Dragonfly and Hero's Tale, which, like, I gave all those games away because I'm just like, it just started to, like, my interest in Spyro just kind of started to dwindle, and there was a point in my life where I'm just like, whatever happened to Spyro? And then Legend rolled around, and I was like, wow, and I saw the trailer, I was like, cool, and I wanted to play it because Cinder because I thought she was hot. I thought she was a guy at first, and then I was like, oh, it's a girl? Okay, well, she's still hot. And so, like, then I played it, and I'm like, I don't like this game because I just didn't like the way it played. I didn't like it. It was just button mashing, and I didn't like the combat. I didn't like the fact that you had, a mana meter and a freaking health meter. Like, it was weird. Like, it was everything that Spyro wasn't to me, so I'm like, no, this is too weird for me. Although I did enjoy playing Dawn of the Dragon. I hate the Eternal Night. I don't ever want to play it again. And then Skylanders came around, and I was like, okay, cool. And then I was like, why isn't Spyro in the middle on the cover, like Stealth Elf's Adventure featuring Spyro? So I played a little of that. I had the first game, and it was okay, I guess. But PS3's garbage, so it didn't run very well, and it froze a lot on me. So I was like, whatever. And then I stopped playing it and gave it away, and I kept the figures though. And then Reignited came out, and it basically it reignited my interest in the entire series, and that's what sparked basically the birth of my channel.
Yeah, you're here today because of Spyro. Basically, Spyro did a lot of things for you throughout your life and throughout your YouTube career, and
yes,
it's what is pushing you onward, which is super, super awesome. And it's so funny because, again, when I was growing up, none of my friends really knew or cared too much about Crash. Especially even if they liked some of the games, it was a lot of the older stuff, a lot of the PS1 stuff, and it was never at that same degree that I did. So it was always a more casual thing with friends for me to play like CTR with some of my neighborhood friends, or I don't even think we ever played Spyro together, me and my other friends and I. So yeah, it was really hard to find people and meet people, especially like at school, who had similar interests, and like maybe we could connect on a Mario thing, but I was still getting into Mario at that time. So even I was very new to like Nintendo and all that. But I think right after, or like right about the time I was getting out of high school, I was using the internet a lot more, and I finally made, Destination Mark and this channel, VidGames and stuff, and I finally started to branch out a little bit, and I did start slowly meeting people with those similar interests. So, I found Jeremiah Isaiah and G-Man Rocks and all of them, and the rest is kind of history after that. I mean, we even met, through Spyro, so officially, because you actually commented on a few of my videos in the past, and at that point, you were a commenter, I was a content creator, so like we didn't really, who knew it would get to this,
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
It's like a lot of stuff has been chalked up to coincidences for me. A lot of like big, I think, milestones in my life when it comes to like nerdy shit and meeting people through nerdy shit.
Yeah.
It's just being at the right place at the right time, which is awesome. So because I didn't have a lot of people to play with for Crash and Spyro, my journey has been very much also just solo. So it's always just been me or my brother and the games. So like I started by coughing. Sorry. I started by playing the demo of Spyro 1 on one of my PS Underground demo discs that I used to get, because we were subscribed to, what was it? I think it was Game Informer or Game Pro, whichever. Or there was the PlayStation Magazine, which I think those are the ones that had it. So we might have been subscribed to those for a while, but I mainly remember being subscribed to Game Informer when I was a kid. But I had the demo on one of the demo discs, and it was awesome. And it was like one of the last demos, because it is chronicled and documented along with the different other like beta and demo builds of Spyro 1. So you can go back through somewhere and find it, which specific demo I played. Plus, on Destination Mark, I did do a video to celebrate, I think it was Spyro's 20th, I want to say, maybe. I did play that same demo in celebration. Because the disc still works, but it's very scratched. It's really, really old. So it was a demo where it was just, I think, Artisans, Stonehill, and Dark Hollow. Dark Hollow is what was basically finished fully, besides a few dragons not being there, their animations, and they themselves weren't finished, so like there was like those temporary little hints that was just text. Nestor had a different voice. There was the title screen music was playing in Artisans, and the credits theme was playing in Stonehill. So to a degree, I still consider those songs to be like for those levels, or you know, for Artisans and all that. So it still elicits a nostalgic response from me. So I played the demo first, then I guess my mom later down the road, when the game actually came out, got it for me, and that's when I started to realize like some of those differences from the demo. Got that, loved it, and then Spyro 2 came out, Spyro 3 came out, so I really just kind of went as, I don't remember when I got them, but I just kind of, you know, played them as they came out. And then I really liked Under the Dragonfly. I remember my friend Javier, who lived across the street from me, he had it first, I think, before me, or, well, he had the GameCube version, I had the PS2 version, so it was interesting to play with a different control scheme over there, or like a different controller altogether at his place. And then Hero Tale always eluded me because I rented it from Hollywood Video, and it was such a different game in the sense to where it like felt like Spyro, but it was doing things a bit differently. So it was a little more open and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, this is, you know, this is different. And I could never actually find the actual game like in stores to actually buy. So I always had to either I would always have to rent it. And
Yeah.
when I did finally get a couple copies, I had to get a couple copies because each fucking copy I'd get would just not work. They were old and they were used. So like I went through at least 2 or 3 different freaking PS2 copies of A Hero's Tale. Right now the one I have that works is the GameCube version, but I do want to get a proper PS2 version. And then the only Game Boy game I've played was Spyro Orange, because that was a huge deal for me. If you actually go back, we'll plug this and we'll put it probably in the description. Miharu and I did on her channel, we have a little discussion series called Share Play, and we did a box art, like, kind of critique sort of a thing with the Spyro box arts. And I mean, you could just watch that for more Spyro content from us, but also I talked about in one of the parts, I think it was part 2, we were going through a lot of the post-Insomniac stuff right before, I think it was Legend. I was talking about, like, basically my experience with Spyro and Crash in the time where they finally had their official crossover, which was Crash Purple and Spyro Orange, and it was a huge deal. I remember the commercials on, like, Kids WB, there were the McDonald's commercials, the McDonald's toys, the little electronic games. I have a few of them. I don't think they work anymore, unfortunately, but I do have a few of them. And you could kind of similar to how CTR Nitrofield had like the little Sour Patch Kid codes for the exclusive like carts and stuff, like cart pieces and all that. Back then, for Spyro Orange and Crash Purple, you could get if you buy like some type of gummy snacks or whatever that had Crash or Spyro in the packaging, or like Fruit by the Foot or something. You could get little cards, because in the game they have cards you can get. I don't know if they're not fashioned directly after the cards in the game, but like it's a similar kind of scenario there. Like you just buy all these little packs of snacks, and then you can potentially get cards inside. And I've only ever gotten one, which is a Cortex card, but I would love to find more like on eBay or something and see just how many they ended up selling. It was a huge deal. I loved it. I ate that right the fuck up, no pun intended. But
yeah, I actually have I have a video about Spyro fast food promotions if anyone's interested in that.
Yes. Oh yeah. I'll put that in the description. Yeah, just all kinds of crazy stuff were happening around that time with Crash and Spyro. I even have, I think it came with Spyro Orange, because I think Crash Purple also had one, which I never, for some reason, I don't think it came with mine for some bizarre reason, but with Spyro, there was a little singular cartridge carrying case. It was a little case just for one cart, and of course, it being Spyro Orange, it was orange, and it had Crash and Spyro's faces on them, like emblazoned on them.
Yeah.
And I was, because there's a purple version of that too, but for some reason I never got it when I got Crash Purple. But getting Spyro Orange, it came with that, and I still have it, and it was really cool. Just all the stuff they were doing around that time they made it a big deal. It got a lot of marketing and advertising, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And then after all of that, though, I didn't play any other Spyro GBA games, and I never played to this day I still haven't played Shadow Legacy. And then, because I didn't have a DS at the time, I also didn't play Crash Boom Bang, and before I knew it was bad, I really wanted to play it. And then after that, when Legend came out, on my end, I was like, oh, okay. And now, we're going to date this a little bit, but in one of Miharu's last streams she did, we were going over, I still have a magazine that had, like, oh my god, some older articles in there for games that, you know, are like 10 plus years old, 15 fucking years old now, but like at the time, fucking there was Spyro, Legend of Spyro, New Beginning. There was an article for Rayman 4. It was Raving Rabbids, but it was Rayman 4 originally. The Wii didn't even have its name yet. They were still calling it the Nintendo Revolution. So there was a fucking weird Sonic 06 article in there, which was really freaking funny.
Yeah. This is from my Banjo Tooie stream, by the way. It's
yes.
the first part of the Banjo Tooie stream.
So you can go ahead and check that out on her channel, so you can catch all that context and see how the conversation got to me sharing those articles from that magazine that I have. But it was really, really funny. But that magazine and that Legend of Spyro article is where I first found out they were doing Legend of Spyro, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I guess my mom was like, she read it to me, and she was like, yeah, I guess it's like a reboot or something, and I was like, okay, like, I don't know if I was just that impressionable or whatever as a kid, because also you're talking to somebody who does not at all mind the redesigns for Crash of the Titans and Might of a Mutant. I just accepted them and was like, it's another Crash game, I'm hyped, let's see what it's all about, and same thing for Spyro. So I got A New Beginning when it first came out, and I loved it, and I still have my original copy of it on the GameCube, and I like it. I know it's repetitive, I know people say what they say about it, but there is still some Spyro in it, enough for me to be like, it's a Spyro game, it still feels like a Spyro game, but obviously there are many, you know, bits of it that are different. The tone, some of the gameplay, a lot of like the elemental stuff and things, they lifted from other games to keep that consistency, but I think it still feels silly enough to be classified as Spyro. Just, you know, it just works a little bit differently. I did finally, about a good 2 or so years ago, get around with my brother, finally got around to beating Eternal Night. Jesus Christ, yeah. The thing that makes that the thing that makes that game bullshit is the fact that I guess Chrome must have looked at the feedback from A New Beginning, and how everyone was like, this game is just too easy, it's too repetitive, the enemies are too easy to kill. And they said, alright, jack up the difficulty of the enemies, and the enemies in Eternal Night are bullshit.
It's too okay, so like, they said it's too easy, it's too repetitive. Okay, so let's make it harder, but still repetitive.
Well, the one thing that stays true in terms of repetitive for Eternal Night is, because you're not just, okay, so New Beginning has you hit these very specific beats throughout the story. So the game runs on, alright, we need to find these guardian elder dragons because they have to help Spyro to grow his power so he can go up against Cinder. What does that mean? Go to a new island or a new world, navigate around it, defeat some enemies, get into some fights, do some ambushes, get to that dragon, rescue him by defeating the boss, bring him back to the Dragon Temple, have a session where you have to learn how to use those new elemental moves that dragon knows and will teach you, rinse and repeat about a good 3 more times after that. So it's very repetitive in that regard. Eternal Night actually does, you know, go through a whole cohesive story that sees you going through different areas. Cinder runs off, you meet up with her again later, and then it's just you escaping this whole, like, fucking underground, weird, like, fighting arena. Now, that part actually is really, really cool. I want to see more of that in a new Spyro game, with more of the classic style, where, there's this moment in the story, it's a huge gameplay moment. It's a stretch of gameplay where you do escape that arena. Now, I say underground. I don't mean literally. Actually, quite the opposite. If you want to say literal, it's actually up in the air. But you get out of there, and after I think you defeat the boss or on the way to go and get the boss, you have to like glide off these like big, huge flying ships. And there are these moments where when you're going, you can see this entire landscape. There's just nothing but sea below you, and the horizon, you know, off in the distance, and you just see all these big flying. It's like an armada of ships. And I thought that was so cool. And you're in real time, no cutscenes or on rails, anything. You're gliding from ship to ship and destroying them. And that was so fucking dope. I was like, oh my god. Imagine if they just streamlined that and made it more like, you know, classic Spyro, like Reignited or something.
Yeah.
But gave you some huge set pieces to just maneuver around like that. Oh, it was awesome. But it was hard to appreciate a lot of those cooler moments in Eternal Night because of the fact that the combat's a little more excruciating this time around because of the enemies, and all enemies have been altered and pumped up with energy juice. They are a lot more powerful. They do a lot more damage to you. You get less recovery time. You barely have any iframes. It's a fucking mess in that regard. Especially that last half coming to endgame. Jesus Christ, it's a trudge. You're trudging through enemies and stuff at that point. But Vic and I tag teamed it together one night, and we got through it, and we beat it. So eventually I will move on. He and I probably, because it's, you know, co-op, will move on to Dawn of the Dragon. So I'll finally get to play that game for the first time.
Play with cheats. It's the best way to play it.
I mean, we'll see. I need to see just how adjusted they made the gameplay for this one now, because I don't know how the enemies are. I only played a little tiny bit of the beginning, so I can see kind of, you know, what it was all about. And because it was a different developer, I forget who did Dawn of the Dragon. It plays and looks even quite different from the previous two games in the Legend trilogy. But I'm excited to jump into that and see what it's all about.
Yeah.
After that, we got Skylanders. Y'all already know my story about that, so I'm not going to repeat it here. But the one thing I will say, and I'll say it to you too personally, is if you wanted to try any other Skylanders game since you haven't played any of them in a while, I would say get Imaginators. Not just for the crash shit, but also because the game itself is pretty well adjusted this time around. I've only ever played, outside of Imaginators, the first game, and I don't like it at all. I think it's a very bad game, but I wanted to see. I was curious. Here I am trying to give the series a chance again, and the only reason why I even picked it up was because Crash was in it. But after I experienced Thumpa Wumpa Islands, I was like, okay, I said I was going to stop here, and this is documented. On Destination Mark, I did make videos saying, okay, guys, well, I'll let you know now, I'm going to get Imaginators for Crash in them, but I'm not going to play the game itself. I just want to experience the Crash stuff. I went through back later, and I did play the whole game, and I beat it. And how I know? Chaos goes Super Saiyan. He's the final boss. He goes Super Saiyan. And that's the boss at the end. And there's like dubstep, and it's all fucking crazy. Like, no! I beat him. I beat him as Crash, and I think Spyro and a few others. And I did do it. But as I was playing through the actual game itself, outside of the Crash stuff, I was like, okay, how is this compared to Spyro's Adventure, where they were still trying to get their feet wet with this type of a game? And I think this was one of the biggest things Toys for Bob at the time had done, and because they create a fucking empire of plastic and fucking Toys to Life shit. So, in my opinion, I think Imagineers did improve quite a few things here and there. The gameplay is still a little kind of monotonous, but it's not as bad, especially because you can jump. You couldn't even jump in the early Skylanders games, but I think it was like the 4th or 5th game let you start jumping, so you can actually put some kind of intricate platforming around it, and they did in Imaginators. It was a little more intuitive, I think. And then Reignited happened, and I remember when Insane dropped, we were all excited, but I was also a big voucher for Spyro. I made 2 videos. Well, I made one video primarily where I titled it "What About Spyro?" and it was a discussion video all about, alright guys, Crash is all but basically confirmed. It was actually before I think Insane even was revealed. I can't even remember the timeline between when I made this video and what was happening with Crash at the time. But I was like, okay, Crash is basically confirmed and basically solidified as, you know, still alive, still having things going on. But what about Spyro? And then there were the petitions, and I made some petitions. Well, I didn't make some petitions. I signed some petitions, and I was trying to have people. I was trying to raise awareness of those petitions so others could sign them, because I think Stuart Copeland or somebody signed one of them, and I was like, hey, if they're backing it, I think then that gives it quite a lot of validity for others to back it. So I pushed a couple of those specific petitions, and it was a huge deal. And then when the fucking screenshots leaked, it was really early in the morning. I had to get ready for work. I made a quick Periscope stream to tell people, hey, I'm seeing these screenshots. I think we're going to get a fucking announcement soon. And that day, when I came back from work, I saw the trailer and I lost my shit.
Yeah. Oh god. I remember that day so clearly.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it all day while I was at work.
Yeah, what was your mindset at that time? How did you feel about that? How'd you feel about the freaking... how everyone was all up in arms when the guys at Activision were like, hey, we're going to play some Insane live, and we've got a special announcement, and then they kind of had to back out the last minute, and it pissed everyone off.
Yeah, they didn't say anything. I was like, I mean, I guess I was disappointed. I was just kind of like, what, like, what's happening? I don't... It was just kind of a weird time leading up to it. And it was just so random when everything eventually dropped. Because
yeah,
it's like it was just a random day. Well, you know, first, you know, you got the eggs, and I was like, oh my god, like, things could be happening. I'm so excited. And then, but I didn't realize the excitement that it would actually bring. Like, when I saw those first images and the trailer, because I woke up, I was watching all these YouTubers at the time who were talking about it, and I was like, wait, what? And I looked at the images. I was like, is this real? Is this real? And then I was like, wait, there's trailer, huh? And then I looked at it and I'm like, oh my god, it's real! It's real! And then, that day, or that night rather, that's when I decided, I was like, you know what? I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this trailer, and I'm gonna put it on my YouTube channel that I haven't done anything on in a while. Cause like, I was using my channel at the time, and I'm like, you know what? I want to make a video out of this. I want to talk about it. And I did. And then everything spiraled from there.
The best decision you ever made. So good. Yeah. It happened real fast for Spyro, and it seemed random because, yeah, they didn't wait for any kind of... I was saying, a lot of people were saying, it's going to drop at E3. There's going to be a whole thing about it. There's going to be an E3 announcement. No. Like, a good month before, actually, is when they dropped it, and it was just on a random day. I think with that Activision stream, they wanted to announce it there. I think this is what my theory is, because I don't think they ever came out... I don't think anyone from Activision ever came out and confirmed it. I don't think it was said anywhere or said to anybody about what happened. What I think they were trying to do, because they played Insane specifically, because they went back later and Insane at that time got a small update, and there was... They started with teasing it with Crash, and then it turned into Spyro, because what happened was there was a video that went up around that time of Crash doing the old cheat code in Crash 3, because in the OG Crash 3, doing a specific cheat code will let you play a demo of Spyro, and so they were trying to do an homage to that cheat code, and you put the same one in, and you can see the trailer for Reignited. So I think what they wanted to do was show off that cheat code in the stream and let the trailer run so we could see it in the live stream and go crazy over it. But I think maybe coding it into the game and updating it just wasn't working, and they were probably having issues trying to get it to function properly, and they couldn't get it done in time, so they were like, well, we promised to stream, we can't cancel the stream because that's going to raise even more eyebrows. We're just going to have to bite the bullet and say that we don't have an announcement after all. And they handle it very weird in hindsight as well, because it's not like they said, yeah, we don't really have an announcement, we're sorry, but maybe if you stay tuned at some point, or like in the next day or two, or they could have said something to kind of save face, and they didn't, so it just kind of put them in a very odd position and made the fans just go fucking crazy with rage, I guess.
Yeah.
But the way all of it happened, having the eggs, having Falcon McBob come up with the official, at Spyro the Dragon, it going live, tweeting to Crash and Crash tweeting back, then, yes, and then the eggs were happening, it was just one, then it was like 2 or 3, and then a whole bunch of people started getting them. And then PS France did a little teasing tweet, because that was on the day that year in 2018. April Fool's Day was also Easter at the same time, so the Sundays that Sunday just happened to coincide where it was Easter and also April Fool's. So they did a little post about it, and just from there it just kept going, and then bam, April 5th we got that trailer. And the screenshots.
Yeah.
It was fucking crazy.
I think one of the worst parts of it for me was like having to wait to like play any bit of it at all, because like all the demos came out. I wasn't able to play any of that because it was at what was it, at E3, I guess.
E3, because I played it, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't go to E3 and like my any GameStop that I have near me, which is like none, and the only one that's close enough, like no GameStop that I know of has like kiosks where you could actually play games at all, so like I wasn't able to do that there.
Oh, that sucks. I wish you could have gone to E3. That would have been really cool too. How weird would it have been if we met there.
Yeah.
You would have had a blast. You would have fucking loved it, because just how they themed it after Magic Crafters and going through the arches, and there were these real arches that you go through to get to the kiosk. It was a whole booth. Oh, it was amazing. And just seeing everyone there in their Spyro shirts and having the big ass poster there. It was like a scroll basically. Oh my god.
Yeah.
That was always the spot, too, for Crash and Spyro, because Insane had theirs the year before, and the year after it was Nitro Field. And on the opposite side of the booth, there was the little area where you could take a picture they gave you a real Crash trophy to hold up, and then you're sitting in a huge recreation of Crash's cart. It was like a whole little set piece there that they made, and that was awesome. I could only just imagine that if the pandemic didn't happen, Crash 4 would have had a probably really crazy booth as well at E3.
Yeah.
But for Spyro, Reignited just launched so much stuff. It launched, us meeting. It launched, I do remember when we were streaming our Day Zero stuff. I don't remember if you did a Day Zero thing, but I did a Day Zero thing because it was really late at night. It was like at 9 at night.
No, I didn't, because I never got it digitally.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
because I didn't like to pay for games twice back then. I don't like to do it now. I don't like to pay for games twice. I just don't like to do it. But like sometimes I do. Only because I only get physical copies of games that I really want in my collection. With anything else, I will get it digitally so I can do, Day Zero things. But of course, I don't do that now anyway, because I don't do blind streams. But yeah, I didn't do it. I didn't do it for that. In fact, I didn't play the game at all. No, I couldn't stream back then.
Oh.
Don't you remember? I couldn't stream. I didn't have the internet capabilities.
That's right. Oh my god.
The first time I played it was with BGT. We did videos.
Yes. Oh, okay. I remember that. I do remember that. Yeah. But you did jump in on my stream because I was streaming straight off the PS4, and we did a Day Zero thing late at night. We did all of Artisans and a little bit of Peacekeepers, and that was my first blind introduction to the full game of Reignited. So there were some things there that I got to see blind, and then the rest of it continued to be blind during the day one stuff. But it was a huge time. It was a really, really huge time.
Yeah.
And I just, man, again, we're gonna date this. I'm sorry, but this will probably be out after Summer Game Fest stuff happened on the 9th. So right now, so this is coming out after probably, but we're recording this before, so I don't know if Crash stuff did drop. I did a video on some kind of quote-unquote news because one of the guys from a podcast who I think might be an insider or some sort of a leaker dude was kind of hinting that Crash stuff might be happening. So I'm sorry, I hate doing this. I hate dating that kind of stuff, but Crash stuff may or may not be out by the time, like info and stuff may or may not be out by the time this releases.
And just in case it is, did you see the new Crash stuff? Holy crap, right?
But in case it didn't, we'll get them next time, boys. I don't fucking know. But I'm just hoping that Spyro gets some stuff. Activision has to know, right? That, like, I think it's the curse of being the second release. As far back as when they were first conceived, Crash came out in 96, Spyro in 98. So
you would think being the second release would be a curse, but with something like Horizon, even though that comes out first, there's always something that just for some reason just overshadows it. Like there's, we had Breath of the Wild and we had Elden Ring, and there's always something, isn't there?
Hey, welcome to my life when I talk about character designs. If we're going to continue going on that dating train, Pac-Man was trending for a while because everyone remembered that Ghostly Adventures exists, and they started shitting on the redesign of Pac-Man. And I'm like, hi, fan of Ghostly Adventures who got his DVD signed by Andrea Libman over here, who was the voice of Cylindria. I think the designs are actually pretty okay. The tie-in game that came out, the platformer game that came out, I never played the second game. The first one is not that bad compared to other Pac-Man platformers like the Pac-Man World Trilogy. It is on that bland side, kind of. But it was fun enough. It was okay. But the show itself, I actually do really like. All this to say that anytime I end up really liking a character redesign of some type of, classic video game character, again, Crash the Titans, Legend of Spyro redesign, people shit on it all the time. And ones I don't like some of Sonic's designs or Spyro's Skylander design, everyone's against me all of a sudden. Like, oh, fuck you for that opinion. You can't say that. I like it.
Nobody likes Spyro's Skylanders design.
Oh, you'd be surprised. People are super okay with it. A lot of fans don't mind it. Apparently,
That's
I'm just
weird.
an old...
I've never seen that. That's weird. I've seen like a lot of people defending his Legend design, which I don't like.
I mean, I'll defend it because I don't think it's that. His Legend design is far better in my opinion. In my opinion, I gotta always preface anything I say by saying that League's better his Legend design than his Skylanders design. I do not like his Skylanders design at all. That is the one consistent thing of mine. No matter how softened up I get to anything Skylanders related, that is the one thing that will never change. I think his design in most Skylanders stuff, even when they try to slightly redesign him a little bit, it's still butt ugly. If you had to put those designs, if you plucked his Spyro's Adventure design, his design that they kind of tweaked a little bit by the time of like Superchargers and Imaginators, and then in the show, in Academy, pluck those three out, plop them with the rest of the Spyro lineup, ugliest ones. That's what I feel anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, every time you you find a game that you really love, and if it gets sequels or whatever, but then other games of the same genre that are AAA come out, yeah, they start overshadowing. I feel you. That shit sucks.
It's annoying.
And again, ironically enough, it kind of happens with Crash and Spyro. Something for Spyro drops, but a Crash thing comes out later, and everyone's on that. At the very least, I do appreciate that, these devs have been implementing Spyro into Crash stuff. Because as much as people say, oh, Spyro and Crash have been teaming up like way too much nowadays, did you miss everything before their hiatuses? Like, Spyro's hiatus only happened because they were crossing over from one reboot to like this otherly franchise. But Crash had that whole freaking 6 to 8 or however year-long fucking time where nothing was happening with him. Before then, when we had all our PS2 and 3 era shit, nah, they were freaking crossing over all the time. Even in Legend, hell, there are a couple Crash Easter eggs, little Crash cameo appearances. There's one in the DS version of New Beginning where he's tied to a stake and they're cooking him, and you have to see it way off in it's like the out of bounds area, and then he's frozen under on the console version of Eternal Night. He's frozen under this like ice area near the end of the game.
Yeah, that's right.
So they've always been crossing over. I mean, hell, there was a I recently found, about a year ago, it's not that recent in hindsight, but I found a trailer, or a commercial rather, of, it was like a dual promotion. It was of, I think it was Eternal Night and of Crash of the Titans, because those were both '07. And, because I told you about this, because it was like, the dawn is coming. Come and join Spyro on a new adventure. Join Crash on a wacky adventure with Titans! And, they were, fighting over, oh, he's the wacky one, he's the more kind of serious one. And it was a funny commercial.
The funny thing about that is it's highlighting exactly what I love about, those Crash games and exactly what I don't like about those Spyro games. That's so funny to me.
Crash consistently stayed wacky and cartoony, and Spyro tried to go under, a whole tone overhaul. Again, I don't mind Legends' slightly darker plot, and everyone says it's Lord of the Rings Spyro, Frodo, fucking.
But it is though.
Elijah Wood is Spyro.
You just watched Lord of the Rings, you know.
That's true. Last time I went over to your place, we were hanging out, and yeah, we watched a whole bunch of Lord of the Rings. Spyro giving that Elijah Wood stare.
Yeah.
That 1,000-yard stare. He says he's the guy, and then he gets obliterated. He says oops, and he vanishes.
Makes breathy noises before he dies. He goes, Isn't that what Spyro does when he dies in those games?
Yes. Yes, you're right.
It's so weird.
Oh my god. In terms of voice actors, I don't mind Elijah Wood as Spyro. To capture that, little innocent dragon who has to grow up real fast because of the world around him, I think he fit.
No, it wasn't bad, but then again, they were just writing Spyro as Frodo. So, of course he wasn't that bad. I think, everyone's acting could have been better. I think their direction was just, a little off, because, everybody just kind of sounded like they had no emotion, whatsoever.
That's... I understand, yeah. It's because they were okay, this is a cartoon, but it's serious, and so they had to all kind of, take it seriously, quote-unquote, but it was kind of hard to, because it was cartoony.
Yeah. The fact that Elijah Wood can't even remember that he voiced Spyro is so funny to me.
They show him actual evidence. They put the trailer in front of him, and he's like, I still, this doesn't ring a bell. I think I blacked out during that period of my life. What was it?
He would black out as the spirit of Spyro possessed his mortal body once again.
I was hoping you would quote that. Oh man,
that goes into our whole discussion about about Greg Berger and Ripto.
Oh my god. Yeah, we have a running joke where Insomniac's a very interesting place to be in the early 2000s, late 90s, where everyone just, all that voice actors would cosplay as their characters and quote them, and Ted Price would just yell over everybody because he's hard of hearing because of that that interview he did on Year of the Dragon.
It's so funny. Please, like, oh my god, link to that video in the description.
I will. He goes over all the critters in explicit detail, except for Ben. He just calls him a strong man.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Top 3 Spyro voices, go.
Let's see. Tom Kenny, Carlos Alazraki.
Jesser Elijah. Matt Mercer.
Justin
Long.
Justin. I don't know. None of them are particularly memorable. I mean, I was like, I don't know. I'm gonna Elijah Wood. You know what? I'm gonna
really okay.
I'm gonna go with that because, like, honestly, I don't really like how anyone else sounded.
You don't like Jesse's take?
No, he sounded way too weird. It just didn't sound like Spyro to me.
So, Hunter, you done being awesome yet?
Yeah, he just sounded like this.
Well, he was trying to do Carlos. He was
but that's not how you do it. Like, you know.
Well, I mean,
he
can't
okay.
do exactly Carlos.
Okay, well, exactly, but like, no, like him trying to do the Carlos Alazraki Spyro sounds more like somebody who's mocking that voice.
I mean, hey. Heroes Tale is something of a parody game. They do a lot of fourth wall breaking and self-aware humor in that.
Which people do enough already, because anytime someone talks about the first game, they're just like, Spyro was so annoying. It's like, no, he wasn't.
God.
He was a kid.
I mean, look no further than that behind-the-scenes video of the voice acting for Spyro 1. There's a PlayStation Underground interview with Clancy Brown, with Carlos Alazraki. They were trying to figure out where they wanted to hit. They hit this middle point of, you know, he's kind of nasally and he's kind of a kid, but he's also kind of cool like a teenager. And
Cooler
they hit this, like,
and older.
Yeah, and that's what he said. Yeah, and then they came to this happy middle.
I remember exactly what he said, actually.
Yeah, and they came to this happy middle, and that's what we got in the final game. I dig that voice for him. I think it fits.
Kind of a go-getter kind of guy, and kind of tough, but also kind of nice.
Also kind of, I love that you know that. I watched those interviews again. That was on one of my discs. I watched those all the time as a kid. I love that you know it. Oh my god!
I think he just described Spyro perfectly.
I mean, yeah, that was. I don't think that characterization ever really left. Maybe until Legend, to be honest. There was always this attitude about him that doesn't border on Sonic at all, of like narcissistic and just really weird and not very fun to watch. But not too like sappy either. Like there was this nice medium. PlayStation always had a nice medium of characters that, you know, were cute to look at and they, you know, are very iconic, but also they didn't border Sonic, but didn't border Mario either, of like, it's just a super straightforward kid happy time. There could be some toot in there, but not as like up there as what Sonic kind of set that bar of like, this is attitude, this is 90s. Like
edgy, dude.
That's from that Sonic 06 article. Grinding rails is edgy, dude. Like, no. Please, dear God. But, I think Spyro is higher up on that kind of coolness ranking than Crash, because Crash's idea of cool is putting tattoos on and whatever, but like, which again, I don't mind. I'm just saying, like, Crash is wacky Looney Tunes humor. Spyro has some of that too, but it's less slapstick and more like the adventure. It's about the adventure, you know, but with a little bit of maybe Sonic influenced coolness, but not hitting that over the top coolness that Sonic has, or just everything I do is cool, way past cool. Like Spyro never hit that.
Way past cool.
So that's why I like both of them. They both, you know, both Crash and Spyro, they have some toot, but they're still these cute little characters.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, for me, I think Jess would be up there in my top 3. It's hard to choose though at the same time, but there have been so many voices. And Tom Kenny even did try to kind of, meet his own happy medium in Reignited of trying to do the old performance of Spyro 2 and 3 when, he took over for Carlos, and a little bit of Carlos himself. Not to the degree that that Jess tried, but obviously you listen to, Tom's performance in OG Spyro 2 and 3 and then look at all of Reignited, and you can see that they told him, okay, inject a little more attitude in there, push it a little bit more, not too much. That does lead into, however, one of the points I did want to talk about, which is differences between Reignited and the OG trilogy, because I feel in certain aspects they kind of neutered the actual things Spyro would say and how he would say them. I want to know what your thoughts are on that.
Like, well, okay, tell me what you mean first.
So, for example, even though I said just earlier that they did probably tell Tom to kind of push a little bit more for that, performance-wise, for that attitude, like how Carlos originally tried to inject into Spyro, because Tom Kenny did more in OG 2 and 3, did more of like a, he had the attitude, but he was a little more on that passive side. He sounded a bit more like laid back, kind of. It wasn't nasally or anything like that like Carlos's was, but in Reignited, while not nasally, it does sound a little higher pitch. It sounds a little more like a kid with some attitude. It was a slightly different take than what Tom Kenny did in the original 2 and 3. That's performance-wise. In terms of what he had to say and how he had to say it as Spyro, especially I'm talking mainly like in Spyro 1, there were a few things they kind of dialed back because they didn't want him to feel or seem like an a-hole.
Right.
Just the way he would say certain things or address certain dragons or whatever. There were a couple of things, maybe even in 3, that he said a little bit differently. Do you feel that it was like a neutering of that attitude, or do you think it was necessary?
Yes, I do feel like it was toned down. Just like, yes, some of the things had a lot less attitude. One of the best examples, I think, is one of my favorite lines, actually, when you rescue Jed, the hardest dragon to get in treetops. So in the original, he goes like, you could have found an easier spot to get stuck. Like, he's just like, he's kind of pissed off because, like, I just went through all that shit, and, God, like, that was kind of hard.
Yeah.
And in Reignited, he's like, well, you could have found an easier spot to get stuck. Like, he was lecturing him? Like, what was with the inflection? I'm like, what? It just sounded weird.
He even, like, raises his shoulders like, I don't know, sorry.
Yeah.
Because at that point, Toys for Bob, and just by extension, like, the characters too, in a bit of self-awareness, like it was built with knowing how hard that trick is in mind. Insomniac went straight in, like, that's the huge difference between looking at original games versus remasters from the ground up by a different dev at that, where the original devs at the time are just straightforward building a game, sometimes with some difficulty spikes, but whatever. That might be a surprise you'll find as you play the game as a kid back when, that game first dropped. But then when the remake comes out by a different dev, now we're in this era too in terms of humor and style where in-jokes are kind of a thing and self-referential things are a thing and being self-aware is a thing. So you now are building that with this in mind. Okay, I have to recreate this hard as balls, tough as nails kind of little challenge here. Hey, let's have some fun and make the characters kind of self-aware that that was a hard thing they had to do. And putting that, just that little tiny action of putting that knowledge into this new version of the game, it does kind of change the tone a little bit. For as subtle as it might be, you as the player, you as a fan who have played the original, now playing this, will know and understand. And that stretches into the character, portrayals and attitude of these guys, how much ever they decide to actually change. The one thing the one that comes to mind for me, one example is, and it's very small, because I think he says gotta go the same way, but when he addresses Damon in the Frog Cave in Misty Bog, just saying "oh no." In the original, Carlos goes, "Oh no," because it's yet another old guy talking to you and trying to tell stories of the days past. And in Reignited, he goes, "Oh no," like more of a sympathetic.
Oh no, like, oh, you were captured. This is horrible.
A sympathetic "oh no," and that doesn't work when his immediate next line is, "Oh, gotta go," like it.
Yeah.
It's kind of lost a little bit. And that's a small example. It didn't ruin his character or anything, but like
it's just a little thing.
Yeah, it's the little things. Having that there, for as little as it is, I think still kind of unnecessary. It's just really interesting. They did that with so many other characters in way bigger ways, obviously. Something else, I don't know if we're going to just plug all the videos or if I'll just say, hey, go on Miharu's channel and check it out. Of course would be Bianca. There's no way we can do this podcast without talking about Bianca, because you did two videos on her, which I helped edit, and they're like some of your most popular fucking analysis videos.
Mm-hmm. What they did to Bianca is like it's very minor. If you're looking at it through the eyes of anyone else who isn't me, but. But, like, if you look at it with my glasses, it's like, what did they do? But, it's not that bad. Honestly, it's not that bad. I've seen a lot worse. But it's just for a character that means so much to me, it was just so weird to, see that happen. Like, these minor things that I'm like, whoa. Like, why'd you do that? It kind of makes the character a little, less what's the word less significant. Her character arc, it makes it less significant.
Yeah because some of those differences I did catch, because I just like looking at characters like that in general. Any Crash or Spyro character in that sense, I do have my favorites obviously for both franchises, but playing all these remasters and whatnot, or even new games like with Crash 4, I'm always looking at just how they portray the characters and just to see like what their angle is in terms of how they're going to portray them. When it comes to Crash 4, it's like, okay, well, this is a brand new game, so going into the knowledge, Toys for Bob, going into the knowledge that they're making a brand new Crash game that does come off the heels of the original trilogy. How much of the original trilogy's influence is in the characters this time around? Are they going to keep that whole comedic thing up that Twin Sanity started and has been seen through even through to Insane and Nitro Field? How much more reserved are they going to be, or this or that? And with Spyro, it's because we saw it with Insane first and then Spyro after. Again, echoing Crash coming out first back in the late 90s and Spyro coming out right after. It's just a matter of, okay, well, how is this going to pan out? How is it going to feel? What are the characters going to be like? How drastically are they going to change? Because some character designs did change up quite a lot, and others stayed very true and are very similar to their OG counterparts. But in terms of portrayals and voice acting, that's a whole other ballpark. Not just the designs, but how they act and how they talk. And you, being a voice actress, obviously looks super close at that. So it's really interesting to hear your thoughts on inflections and how things are said, how they're spaced out, the beats they have to hit, the literal pauses they have to make or don't make.
Yes.
Like
the pauses. Oh.
Ellipses are there for a reason, guys. I'm just saying.
I know. They're in the script. They're probably written in the script. ...
Yeah, or beat in parentheses.
Beat. But yeah, this kind of goes into another thing. I was actually planning on making this video for a while, but there's still a lot that's gonna go into it. it is, a full analysis on Spyro himself. I was actually going to do that. And it kind of goes into, like, has he become too nice over the years? Mm-hmm. And one example that I'm going to bring up is from just, like, the old commercials. Like, have you seen the old Spyro commercials and the way that he acted? It's just like, what the hell? Like, he's not this mean. Like, he was never like that.
That's almost bordering on Sonic, yeah.
Yeah. It's a happy holidays, fat boy. Like, that's my favorite line. So funny.
Oh, man, don't even get me started. Yeah, and it's also, well, see, the marketing is a whole other thing altogether because other people are doing the animations for that, the writing for it. Of course, everything has to be okayed by the devs who have those characters and whatnot, or the publishers or whoever, but, like, yeah, it is quite a different portrayal, and it's interesting to see. Again, Miharu has a video where she does go over some of those old commercials. But yeah, I think it's very funny. It's an interesting thing to. Not everyone has to feel the need to pay attention to stuff like this, but it's an eye opener when you do, because you just can appreciate things a lot better. I feel when you pay attention to characters, to writing, to story beats, to how things are written and conveyed.
Yeah.
Which makes me excited for a new Spyro game because I want to see what they're going to do with it. If any of these guys have learned anything from doing, from Toys for Bob's, Crash 4, doing a brand new Spyro game after Reignited, I really want to see. There's a lot you can do with Spyro. There's a lot, and not just in the sense of his powers or abilities or whatever, but just the worlds he goes to, and that's something I do. That's going to come to, I think, the last topic we've got for the podcast, which is what do you want to, what specifically, and you can go as in-depth as you want or willing to in case you want to do a video on it or already have. What do you want to see? And it could just be, it could be unreasonable. It can be, what you personally want, whether or not it actually happens. What do you want to see from a new Spyro game?
Well, I can tell you what I don't want to see, and I have a video about that. But I actually have videos about what my top 5 hopes are, and then I have one about what I really hope to not see. But basically, I want to see something with a focus on Spyro as a character, I guess. I mean, not too many cooks in the kitchen, not too many playable characters. Although I do want to play as Bianca. I think, hey, that'd be fun. But I want more focus on, like, platforming and Spyro, less mini games. I'm not saying they should be removed, but less of them.
Oh, man.
And the ones that make sense. And
exactly, yeah.
yeah. And just kind of, I think something along the lines of how the first game was, like, very straightforward. I think something straightforward would be really nice, but with like good storytelling, like Spyro 3 has. I think Spyro 3 has really good storytelling. Despite what some people may think, but because Spyro having, like, a grand story, it's not exactly, it doesn't put me off. It's one of the things that I don't really like about Legend, but I guess it's just the way that they did it that I don't like. But it can have, like a big plot with, a lot of stuff going on, and I can still think that it's cool.
Yeah.
So they can do that. I want a new villain. I don't want Ripto to return. Not just yet. Just like, please put him back in the oven. Let him cook.
Give him some new material.
Yeah. I don't want them to sacrifice gameplay for something like graphics or whatever. Or Pixar movie, what everyone compares it to. It feels like playing a Pixar movie, whatever. I just saw a post like that today about Rift Apart, and I was like, really? You're still doing that?
That's the new... It really feels like you're playing a Pixar movie really makes you feel like you're playing as blank character. As Batman, as Spider-Man.
Really makes you feel like you're playing as Spyro.
You look down, you see that your fingernails are now claws, you can breathe fire.
Spyro VR.
Oh my... That'd be really funny, actually. Oh god. That'd be really weird.
You have to breathe fire. You have to blow to breathe fire.
Blow into the mic.
Blow into the mic.
Oh my god. That's kind of interesting, actually. That's sort of interesting. Would you rather... It's a really silly question, of course, but would you rather there be a VR Spyro that is more like Astrobot or Lucky's Tale or Moss, where, you're the camera and you're controlling the character, but you can see the whole world as if you're actually there? Or would you rather have a first-person Spyro VR game?
I guess the former. Because I like to see the character that I'm playing as.
Not be the character, especially when you're fucking charging around at high speeds and whatnot. To talk about, Japanese kids couldn't fucking play OG Spyro 1 because it's too fast, or Spyro 2. Imagine introducing a VR game where you have to be Spyro and you're charging that fast.
Yeah, that's why I don't like first-person games. I like to see my character. But yeah, it's just a bunch of little things that I want to see for Spyro 4. And then, I get, really minor details that I think would be cool, like a day-night cycle.
That would be cool.
Interconnected worlds.
Yes.
That go back to some other games that I like Star Fox Adventures, Banjo-Tooie.
I'd like to see interconnected worlds almost sort of the way they did it in Hero's Tale, but instead of literally going around and it's just these big worlds, I would still rather you okay, just pretend it's Spyro 1 or 2 or 3. I'm thinking maybe 1, because 1's homeworlds were way more kind of tight-knit and they felt really nice. They weren't too compact, but compact enough to where they were nicely sized. Imagine all of them literally mashed together, and you have to meet how much ever treasure or whatever to be able to go on to to walk out of artisans into into peacekeepers, instead of taking a balloonist, taking the balloon and having a loading screen about it. Do that, and then also levels. So do it, because Hero's Tale were these big worlds mashed together, and sometimes you might have to transport with the professor's teleporter to get somewhere, but so there were no levels you could go through, no portals or anything. It was the first game styled after the classic games to not have portals, because even Enter the Dragonfly had that. But imagine a Spyro game where the worlds are interconnected, the home worlds are interconnected, but you still go level to level through portals. And
yes,
hell, even with the PS5's SSD, because again, we are still thinking that Spyro and Crash will still come to PlayStation consoles, even when the acquisition goes through. They already confirmed that Phil Spencer confirmed that Activision's multi-platform IPs will stay multi-platform, but hey, take full control of the PS5's SSD, or advantage rather, and have it be almost instantaneous. I know you might not have a super duper cool sequence of Spyro flying through a portal and having the loading screen be him traveling, but make it look really cool as you go through.
Yeah,
that would be new and a change of pace, a literal change of pace. For me, going into what I want to see, how you were saying with story, I would like to see. I like the way Crash 4 did it, and this comparison is going to make sense. I'm not just talking about Crash. I like the way Crash 4 did it because it was the first game styled after the original games, the classic games, to introduce the story through cutscenes and whatnot as you just go through the levels. It's still a level-to-level game, and if anything, it's fashioned after Crash 1 with the island hopping. So you're going through the dimensional map, and then after, like, the last level, or sometimes in the first level, hell, sometimes the second level of any given world, they'll have a cutscene that introduces some story, and then the level starts proper. So, you know, that's some way to give context as to where Crash and Coco are now, or what's going on with Tawna, or introducing a new villain or something. So I could see that for Spyro. Like, the more you go through, like, if you're going to go through a portal to a level, and you're almost done with that world, so you can walk your way into the next one, because it's all interconnected. Spyro gets there, and then a cutscene starts, and you get to see kind of like what's happening, and then the level starts proper. I don't know, it'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
It shows that the story's overarching, or overarching, however you say it, and it just goes through, you know? It's a consistent... The story... I don't want the story to take a back seat, how you're saying, to the gameplay, in the sense of, okay, here's the opening cutscene, here's the entire game, here's the ending cutscene. Like, no. Have the opening cutscene, have cutscenes and story stuff sprinkled as you play, and then hit the end, you know?
Yeah. And, like, going back to interconnected worlds and stuff, I think the way that it works in something like Banjo-Tooie is there's, like, multiple ways to get inside certain levels.
Oh, yes, interconnected shortcuts and stuff.
Yes, it's the shortcuts. When I think interconnected, I think Banjo-Tooie and how the way that it does stuff, because I'm just like, this is amazing.
That could work for Spyro.
Little shortcuts. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, make them, like, super duper secret, so you have to, like, find them or charge through something that doesn't look like it could be charged through. And that's one more thing, too. Tweak the formula, and what I mean by that is expectations-wise, tweak little things, introduce little aspects. I made a video on Spyro called The Concept of Difficulty on Destination Mark, where I was talking about the little things you could do, introducing a new type of armor for enemies, or maybe enemies that work a bit differently than you've seen before, so you have to use combinations of charging or flaming or using other elemental abilities for more than just simply shooting lightning at a rod to activate a thing, or freezing an enemy with your ice breath, or, you know, like do more with those elemental stuff. And if anything, people started to really think about stuff like that when CTR came out, when Nitro Fuel came out, because of Space Spyro, or whatever he's called, with that galaxy breath. Like, yeah. Fuck, introduce cool shit like that in a mainline Spyro game. Could you imagine the possibilities? Breathing a substance that can create portals? Could you fucking imagine?
Yeah.
Like, that could change the gameplay in all sorts of crazy cool ways.
But
like,
at the same time, I don't want it to be that complicated.
Not complicated. No, I am of the mindset that there could be a way to seamlessly do it where it's not too convoluted, not too complex. Maybe, like, you have to activate a simple switch by charging into it that activates a galaxy portal. Grab a power-up, it gives you galaxy breath, you can flame it wherever you want, and just walk right through, or something. I mean, there could be ways to make something like that work, or not even just galaxy breath specifically, but like any of these otherly type of abilities, or
like in a very specific level, you'd have like galaxy breath, which works like a portal gun. Kind of.
I mean, yeah. I mean, yeah. Again, I know. I think they did it very well. That's all I'm saying. Like Crash 4. They introduced all the masks, the quantum masks, in their own levels and let you, mess with them in very specific scenarios. So that way, by endgame, coming up to Cortex Castle, they're just giving you all kinds of masks, one after another, and you know how to use them, and they're that simple, that intuitive, one button, instantaneous, and it looks cool, and it's very creative, and you can design some complex stuff around it. Not that Spyro has to go complex, but with Crash, it makes sense. And it's fun. It looks cool, like I said. So, like, introducing them new elements or new ways to use elemental abilities in a new Spyro game have to be very context sensitive, have to be very, specific and simplistic, and then later you can develop it, to do stuff in tandem and to defeat certain enemies in a certain way in tandem with different abilities you have or whatever. I think there's a way to pull it off, and Beanox or Toys for Bob, whoever, I think they'll be able to, hypothetically, of course, because we don't know what's happening with Spyro. I just hope a new game does happen at all. I think they would know how to, balance that kind of stuff out and hopefully not make any one segment or one level or one area or one, enemy too hard to defeat or any one level too hard to complete or anything like that. I would like to see Spyro go a bit bigger in terms of scale, like how you're saying, interconnected worlds, story-infused levels where, the story is kind of dictating where you go, sort of, but they can, make it fun. Definitely natural tutorials again, like Spyro 1, because Spyro 2 and 3 got really like, hey, Hunter and Zoe have to tell you a thing.
Yeah.
And Spyro 1 just gave you hills and enemies to just run into, hills to glide off of, to get to higher ledges. And it's all natural, and there's nothing that tells you. I mean, in the Japanese version, there are signposts or whatever. But no, OG US Spyro was hardcore in that it just presented you with a thing, said, here you go. Master it if you want, master it if you can. It's not required, but it'll help you for sure. And if you master it, boom. That's what you can expect through a good chunk of the game. And that's fun to me. I think that, growing up with that, that's fun. And I think that a new Spyro can highly benefit from that. Because you can't really blame it. You can't really blame it on, like, oh, this new generation of kids are probably just not used to platformers. We've got so many of them now. We've got fucking KO, all these Crash and Spyro stuff, fucking Hat in Time. There are so many platformers out in this day and age. They're back, and you can't tell me that's because kids are dumb and don't know what platformers are. Because, no, there's plenty out there to chew on right now.
Yeah.
So don't put in tutorials for the newbie kids on the block. Like, no, treat them with respect and with some intelligence. I'm sure they could figure it out like we had to back 20-some-odd years ago.
Yeah, but I guess, it's basically, I've said all I can say about what I want from Spyro 4.
Yeah. I remember back then, before we got Crash 4, I remember one thing I really wanted for Spyro. It was actually right when CTO and Untitled was still very much in its prime with all the content that was coming for it. I remember I wanted to see... I made a video on... It wasn't specifically on this subject, but it was part of it, and I forgot what video that was. Hell, it might have been What About Spyro Part 2, because I did do a Part 2 later. It might have been that, or it might have been something else. But there was a part in a Spyro related video like that where I was like, oh, how cool would it be if there was a Spyro game out there that wasn't necessarily a traditional Spyro game fashioned off the classics, like necessarily, but more so a type of a beat 'em up Spyro game, so you can consider it a spin-off and non-canon, but an almost Hyrule Warriors-esque or Dynasty Warriors-esque Spyro game where you're just, you can play as how many of your characters that they could possibly cram in for fan service, characters across Legend and fucking the classics and stuff. Hell, if you wanted to, you could even throw in a few Skylanders in there that people know very well that are, somewhat attached to Spyro in those games. Have them all in there, and there you go. It's a spin-off that still is in line with what Spyro is as a franchise. You can have your beat 'em up elements because Spyro's no stranger to beat 'em ups, but you can play as like a Laura or a Hunter or fucking the Professor even, or all the critters, Bianca, maybe some of the villains like Ripto or the Sorceress or Nasty Nork or something, Ember Flame, Cinder, and it's a beat 'em up, but it's like got some platformery elements to it. It's like an adventure game. I remember I really, really wanted to see something like that, and I kind of still do, to be honest, but from our conversation just earlier, I would still also be fine with a more traditional Spyro game. A Spyro 4, essentially, I guess, if you will. Do you think that would work, like a beat-em-up Spyro game?
I guess. Like, I mean, are you talking about like a fighting game?
Oh no, like in the sense of have I ever shown you? Have you seen what Hyrule Warriors looks like or Dynasty Warriors?
Yeah.
So something of that vein, maybe not exactly like that, but like an adventure game where you're going from world to world and it's almost quite literally just you're defeating enemies with maybe because it's Spyro like some platforming or whatever, but like first and foremost it's like a beat 'em up adventure game.
I see. I mean, maybe. I don't think I'd like that very much, though.
Okay, would you like prefer like just pure platforming?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, please. Makes sense. Okay. But yeah, I do remember at a time I was like, damn, that'd be a fucking awesome game. It's a spin-off, so it doesn't have to be, you don't have to pick it up if you don't want to, but if you want that chance to play as like a bunch of different characters you were never able to play as throughout any of the previous games, this would be like that one for you or something. Like I thought it'd be, because that's what Hyrule Warriors does. Hyrule Warriors, the first one anyway, like just fucking handpicked all these characters from different Zelda games so you could play as like a couple of the villains from like there's like Skyward Sword or Twilight Princess. You can play as Midna. You can play as Princess Ruto from Ocarina of Time. There are so many characters you could play as in that game, from just different, just across. Tetra I think was in there. Just a bunch of different characters. I think Fee might have been her own character. I think. Just from across all the games. They did not care about the timeline at all. They were just like, this is a spin-off, play as whoever you want, essentially.
Huh. Yeah, interesting.
But yeah, I think that's about it. Are there any last words you got on Spyro?
Not really, except the same one as always. Where's our next game?
Yep. I want to see that new Spyro game. I will lose my shit. I want to see what they do with it. I want to see returning voice actors and actresses. I want to see if the portrayals are any different, or if they're the exact same as Reignited, or if the character designs even stay roughly the same. Because in Crash 4, they tweak characters. They don't look the way they do in Insane and Nitro Field. So for Spyro 4. Or whatever it ends up being called, they don't have to keep it. They should hopefully not feel the need to keep it looking and feeling in the exact same way that Reignited does. Because with Insane and Nitro Field, or if we want to keep it a platformer, it's just Insane. That was one of the hugest things they were trying to do, Vicarious Visions, was make sure they got the physics right. And they didn't, of course. I mean, it's really hard to replicate. But they were trying to mimic the physics for like the jump arc, or for the enemies, or for whatever, how the levels were scaled and how wide the gaps needed to be for the bottomless pits and whatever. And with Spyro, I mean, they developed Spyroscope, so that was their way of trying to place enemies and chests and gems and whatnot pretty much damn near exactly where they were in the original games. And they were trying to keep the physics the same and stuff, and they were trying to I don't think they even had a reference point for Spyro's jump arc, so they had to literally just keep jumping in the originals and try to time it, and then try to recreate it in Reignited. So Crash 4 had the freedom of giving the characters and everything their own physics and stuff, and they didn't have to stage shoot anything, so hopefully a new Spyro game doesn't do that either, so that way they can make it feel as natural and as good to control as they possibly could, and I just hope that we hear something soon.
Yeah.
So I guess that's about it. Tune in next time, and we're at 10 episodes. That's pretty crazy.
Woohoo.
Yeah. So, I'm Mark.
I'm Miharu.
And we will see you guys next time. Until then, bye.